Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another oh-so-delicious list where I hop into a time capsule and I take you with me. And we're going to be going back to Essen 2014, and we're going to be checking out the best games that were released in Essen 2014, the top 10 best games, thanks in part to Emil de Mott's fantastic Essen 2014 ranking tracker list. And I've used their list quite a few times. Huge shout out to them. Go give this one a thumbs up if you want to. The link's down below. But starting off, number 10 game, and I gotta say, this was a doozy of a year, because the number 10 game is the number 410 game of all time. That is Matt Leacock's follow-up to Pandemic, Pandemic: The Cure. Now, this was a dice chucking game that streamlined the game down to 30 minutes, and there was tons of buzz around this game, because you gotta realize, Matt Leacock was already a really big deal at this point in 2014. And let's see how big of a deal he was. Was this pre or post-pandemic legacy? I think it was post. Oh, no, this is... Wow, I got to sort it by years. I believe this was post-pandemic legacy, but I could be wrong. All right, so this is 2021. Still pumping out stuff for Pandemic, because why not? I mean... I love Pandemic. It's the game that got me into the hobby. Lunatic's Loop, first game, Roll Through the Ages, which I absolutely adore as well. Then Pandemic in 2008. We have Pandemic on the Brink, Forbidden Island in 2010. Pandemic in the Lab. So the second big expansion to Pandemic in 2013. Forbidden Desert, released in 2013. So I imagine the buzz around Pandemic: The Cure was huge. And I don't have to imagine, because I was in the hobby. I was making content at the time. Yes, the buzz around this was huge. Then we had Thunderbirds, very underrated game. And so this was before Pandemic Legacy, because that came out in 2015, the next year, the number 2 game of all time. It's still massively hyped game, lived up to the hype. And this is one I don't hear too many people talk about still anymore. This one's kind of gone to the wayside. I would imagine that if they did this if they did a 10-year anniversary of this on Kickstarter with the expansion, because I do believe there was an expansion that was released for this or additional content, I could see this one doing absolute gangbusters. I would not be surprised if we see, because I don't think this one is in print, but I could definitely be wrong about that one. But anywho, still, number 10 game of Essen 2014, that is Pandemic: The Cure. Moving on to number 9, we have Cthulhu Wars from Sandy Peterson and Lincoln Peterson. And this is one of those games where it's very highly ranked. It's the number 281 game of all time. Wow, really? Really? Or wow, this is how good this year's... I thought maybe I had messed up the order somehow, but no, I do believe that, honestly, wow, 281st game of all time. So put that into perspective. 9 of the top 281 games on Board Game Geek right now were released in Essen 2014. That's insanity. So Cthulhu Wars, and this one, if you're not familiar, has absolutely gigantic miniatures, and it's one of those games that it's so large and menacing. It's a 90 minutes to 120 hour to play. I feel like the majority of people who'd be interested in this game are the ones that reach out for this game. What I'm saying is, it's kind of like Twilight Imperium 3 to me, to a certain extent. Not the exact same, where you're much more likely to like it if you go out to play it. Whereas, with a game like Splendor, there's a large chunk of people who don't like Splendor, which is why it's not super highly ranked. Because a lot more people are going to access that game and say, it's just not a game for me. Whereas this game, it's not like you're just going to bust this out on a random game night. It's not like, we got... this is one where you're planning it beforehand. But yeah, so this one came out in 2015, but it came out at Essen 2014. So I'm wondering if they retconned that. But he worked on Arkham Horror 1987. Oh, the plot thickened. So this is something I did not realize. So this was, I imagine, a pretty anticipated game then. Because if you're working on Arkham Horror, people are going to be excited about that, period. Whatever you do in the future. So I imagine this one was super hyped, and I honestly don't remember, though. I remember the buzz around Pandemic because I was a huge Pandemic fan. I don't remember the buzz around this one, but I imagine there was a good deal. And lived up to the hype. Number 281 game of all time. People made videos on it 5 months ago. Not sure if this one's in print. I think you can still... I think I saw you could buy it at conventions and stuff. I don't know. Anywho, that's not what this list is about. This is just an informative list. Let's go to number 8, because telling you if it's available now isn't that relevant, because you might be watching this video in 25 years. Who the hell knows? Onitama, 2014, and this is not the actual version. This is the Arcade Wonders version, which is very, very popular. It's a fantastic two-player abstract strategy game, which I know has done, I think it's been very successful to them, because I think they've released at least 1 or 2 expansions for it. It's got a watch it played video, 15 to 20 minutes, and it's one of my favorite abstract strategy games of all time, and the number 17 ranked abstract strategy game of all time. But I want to see if I can go back on the way, way, way back machine and show you what it's, how do I look at this? What the original box looked like. Here we go, box front. This one will give it to me. No, those are all the old box fronts. You suck. Anywho, it did look different. It was a much smaller game. It looked like one of those games that was kind of... Oh, don't look at the number 1. That was brought to Essen from some smaller Asian game designers, which is something that'll happen pretty frequently. And then those designers, they bring it to Essen, and then that's when American publishers will, like, snatch them up. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is like that little hidden gem from Essen. And Arcade Wonders did that one, and Onitama it definitely paid off. Now, moving on to, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is unofficially the number 7 game. I didn't know whether to put it. They redid Power Grid. They did Power Grid Deluxe, the Europe and North American edition, which is currently rated the number 240 game of all time. This is more just like a deluxe edition, so I didn't want to count it, but I will still wanted to mention it because I imagine there was an insane amount of hype around this back in the day, because Power Grid moves the needle, and I love me some Power Grid. But unofficial, asterisks. Anywho, moving on to number 7, we have Arcadia Quest. Fight against rival guilds and monsters in a campaign to reclaim the city of Arcadia, but more importantly, minis upon minis upon minis. How to watch it played video, very fantastic. 60 minutes. Let's see how hyped people were for this game. Oh, it was an Eric Lang game. He had his fingers in it. That gets people excited. Eric Lang moves the needle. 2020, so let's go back to 2014. What were they doing before that? Or was Arcadia Quest the first one? Okay, wow. This guy's worked on tons of games. Arcadia Quest, Trudvang Legends. Let's see. But where were they? I like to know where they were at this period of their career, so you can really see how excited people were about the game. So two first-time game designers, but then it looks like Fred Parrott. Let's see, he looks like another first-time game designer. Okay, but Eric Lang is the odd thumb here, because he'd already worked on the Game of Thrones card game, Call of Duty the card game, Chaos in the Old World, Warhammer Invasion, Quarriors, Star Wars the card game, yeah. So I imagine there was tons of hype about this game, and then he would many people would say reach his zenith. Blood Rage, I know a lot of people think that's one of the greatest games of all time. So I imagine there was a good deal of buzz around Arcadia Quest, and it's still the number 218 most popular, or best, not most popular, best game of all time. At least according to Board Game Geek. Moving on, cracking the top 6. Kanban Drivers Edition. I remember this one. There was a good deal of buzz around this one with the Euro crowd. And I never got to play this one. I always wanted to play this one. It looks like a very fun game. It looks much more thematic than a lot of other games that Vitalis... No, I'm thinking of a different design designer. Vitalis Serta, who is a massively popular game designer. Vinhos CO2 Kanban Driver Edition, 52, 59, 61. So 3 games in the top 100 of all time. And I imagine this was massively hyped, because coming off Vinhos and CO2. And if you're not familiar, he works a lot with Eagle Griffin games, and he has like these massive game boxes that are like rectangle. So imagine a pandemic-sized box, but then just way bigger in that shape, but then it opens up in kind of a fancy way with like really fancy plastic inserts and premium prices. And I've seen him. There's a huge line of his fans to come get autographs for him at conventions. So once again, massively hyped. Lived up to the hype. Nearly a top 200 game. I'm curious, is this one still in print? Because once again, I could see this one being if they upgraded components or slapped on a new module or asked him to design something else or included the bot for... they did. They actually did do... 2020. I was going to say, this seems like a game that they were not going to let stay out of print for too long. So, Continuing forward. Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Oh, one of my favorite games of all time. Number 5 from Ted Alsbach of Bezier Games. Let's see where he was in his career. Was this pre or post, all the werewolf shenanigans? Age of Steams started, wow, I didn't realize he was releasing games back in 2005, 2006. Ultimate Werewolf, Age of Steam expansion. Yep, those are 2 good ones. Age of Steam expansion, Ultimate Werewolf Artifacts, or Milk and the Werewolf, which absolutely, why not? I mean, because the bottom line is, if you're a werewolf fan, you want all those roles. I mean, like, milk me, please. Start Player, cool. And then we get to 2014, Start Player Express. So One Night Ultimate Werewolf and Castles of Mad King Lugwood both released in the same year. And these are 2 games. So that was just an absolute crusher of a year for Bezier Games. I had not realized that. Because, yeah, this was the first time they had gone off just the regular werewolf formula. And they did it, wow, with the One Night, awesome. The Castles of Mad King Ludwig, super fun auctioning game where you got to place things up for bid, and it's so delightful. And they also have a massive version of this now that you need to check out if you've never seen. Like, it's ridiculous how large it is. It was one of those Kickstarter ones, so yeah, this one's still in print, now in giant version. But the number 5 game was released in Essen 2014, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. And this one, so yeah, going back to what I said there, what was the hype around this one, I wonder? I don't remember. Because this is definitely off the beaten path. Because I imagine at that point, because I don't really remember very well, Bezier Games was probably looked at more like just the werewolf guys. The werewolf company. Interesting. Anywho, moving on to number 3, a game that I think is very underrated, despite the fact it's 128, so I guess it's not underrated. It's rated properly. It's just, in the public opinion discussion, I don't feel like Alchemist has enough respect on its name. And this one, released by Maris Kotri, and this one was really unique because it had app integration, and it had like this cool little thing here, and you had to put together potions. And if I recall, at the end of the day, it was a action drafting deduction. I thought it was worker placement or something like that. It was a lot of fun. I played it 2 or 3 times. I absolutely adored it. It's one of those games that I one day want to own. But let's see what the hype was around it. So, it was not hyped in the sense of having a fantastic game designer that everyone was hyped to see. This was actually their first release. But no, I think this one was released by CGE originally. And CGE, on the other hand, in 2014, I believe, was on fire. And they've been on fire for a long time. Like, CGE has just been crushing it. So let's see. Let's go back to it. So Codenames was the big one, 2015. That one just absolutely put them out of the stratosphere. But yeah, they got Dungeon Lords coming out that same year. Dungeon Pets, which was one of the top 10. So both the Dungeon Lords and Dungeon Pets were some of the top rated games at past past Essens. So we got the Tash Galar, still a top 1,000 game. I imagine the buzz for that was super hot when it came out. Zolkin, the Mind Calendar. Zolkin's fantastic. Galaxy Trucker. So yeah, I imagine there was a good... There was. I remember because I was in the hobby. I don't say imagine. I was there. There was a good deal of buzz because at this point, app integration was something that was relatively new. We didn't see it too frequently, and I feel like they did a good job of it. Also, there was a way you could do it just with pencil and paper, and I've tried that before. I liked it with the app way better. Anywho, moving on to number 3, Patchwork. It's from designer Uwe Rosenberg, who is come on. Le Havre, Babel, Agricola, Caverna, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in the top 100. He has so many games in the top 100 that I have to click on the list to see if it's 6, or maybe he's got another one sneaking in there in the bottom 23 there. So the hype for this was probably just absolutely fantastic. I don't particularly remember because it's from the designer of a whole bunch of games we absolutely love, but now he's dipping his toes into a 2-player 15 to 30 minute lightweight filler game. And I know, and the reason why I tell you this, I know people love it is because they've redone it. There's the Patchwork Halloween, there's Patchwork for kids, which is solid as well. I played that one, Patchwork Junior, whatever the hell it's called. But it's, still standing the test of time. The number 100 so he does have another one nestled in the top 100. It's this one, Patchwork. So does he have another? Now I kind of want to check. I kind of want to check to see if he has 7 games in the top 100 or 8 games in the top 100, so I can have this useless piece of trivia that will be completely erased the next time a top 100 game is done. So yeah, rank. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Wow, that's board game design genius. Speaking of board game design genius, the number 71 game of all time and the number 2 game released at... Oh, it's Uwe again. It's Uwe again. He did Patchwork and Fields of Arl the year after he did Caverna and Glass Road. That's just ridiculous. Like, absolutely on fire. I imagine people were running to pick these up. 1 to 2 players, 60 to 120 minutes. The perfect. You got the steak here, and then you got the appetizer with the Patchwork. I imagine a lot of people left that booth with both those games. And still stood the test of time. Number 71 game of all time. Fields of Arl. Uwe Rosenberg crushing it at this year's Essen. But not taking the number 1 spot. No. And I think they got it right. I think Board Game Geek got it right on this one. My personal favorite game of this top 10 is definitely Orleans by Reiner Stockhausen. And this was one of those games, like, this is what I was talking about, where American companies will try to find these gems at Essen and then bring them over to America. And this is one of the ones that really helped launch Tasty Minstrel Games into the stratosphere. Because when Orleans came out, people were so just blown away by it. And I still am. And then when the expansion came out the next year, I wonder if that one came out at Essen, because we'll probably be talking about that one then. Yeah. 2014. But what was before that? 16, 195, 42, 88, 47, 45. So these are pretty highly ranked. I imagine there was a pretty loyal fan base. 4909, 7076. So lots of games previously to this. But this undoubtedly looks like his magnum opus. And if you've never played Orleans, I'm so glad that Capstone Games picks it up and they're reprinting it now, or DLP, or whoever it's doing it. But it's a bag building game. It is it's probably my favorite Euro game of all time. And part of the reason why I love it is, despite the fact there's lots of moving pieces in the game, all the moving pieces connect in a way that makes sense. And it's just a game you should try out. It's still in print. And Orleans Stories, which one day I need to play, they even did a legacy version of it, which didn't do as hot, but still it's in the top 7,000. I mean, come on. It's still great. But there you go. That were the top 10 games released in Essen 2014. Wowzers of a year. If you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. Also, if you have any more ideas, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm going to be doing all of Essen, and then I'm going to do all of Gen Con, and then who knows what kind of history videos I will do. But as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. Bye-bye.